Hello, everybody. Today we're going to be talking about Sri Lanka and how India and China have reacted to Sri Lanka's economic crisis. Let's begin.
Uh,
So, what's happened in Sri Lanka, everyone knows, is that there's an economic crisis going on, that do not have enough money, foreign exchange, to import, pay for imports such as fuel, electricity, and other important goods. They also have uh, debts that they need to clear. They defaulted last year, and now the IMF in September agreed to give a bailout to Sri Lanka during 2023. And however, they need Sri Lanka's creditors to give guarantees for this bailout, that they would support Sri Lanka to pay for the bailout. Now, I want to show how India and China have responded to the bailout offered by IMF. So, here is India's promise to Sri Lanka that India's Ministry of Finance recently issued a letter to the International Monetary Fund to confirm its support to Sri Lanka on the issue of debt restructuring. This this letter was issued in January, and then External Affairs Minister S. Shankar visited Sri Lanka and gave required assurances to Sri Lanka's top leadership for the IMF bailout package, with India becoming the first major lender to publicly back the island nation. In a statement on Wednesday, the governor of the Central Bank of Sri Lanka also thanked India for issuing the necessary guarantees. So, along with this, uh, Sri Lanka is trying to get financial insurances from its major creditors, China, Japan. I don't know about Japan, but China in January said that they gave Sri Lanka the financing assurances required by the IMF to unlock the bailout package. However, now in February, a month later, China is silent on the debt reduction targets for Sri Lanka to get an IMF bailout loan. China on Wednesday said it supports debt-trapped Sri Lanka's efforts to get the much-needed IMF bailout, but parried questions on reports that it will not follow the global lender's debt reduction targets for it to clear the relief package. China's Export-Import Bank has issued a letter granting Sri Lanka a two-year moratorium on repayment and agreeing with the IMF's extended fund facility, but Sri Lankan officials say that China's offer is not the same as a written assurance to the IMF, and it may not be enough for the IMF board. Uh, Sri Lanka also says that uh, the moratorium on the island nation's debt is beyond 2 years, may not be enough for them. They may need more of a moratorium. And a group of countries called the Paris Club members, in and others, such as Hungary and Saudi Arabia, urged other official bilateral creditors, including China, to do the same in line that India has done with IMF program parameters as soon as possible. But Sri Lankan officials said that China is not willing to follow the debt sustainability analysis targets set by the IMF for Sri Lanka to obtain the loan. And the IMF now says that they are mulling the idea of giving the loan approval to Sri Lanka even without China's assurance. So, from my opinion, this shows that India is being a more generous and responsible partner for Sri Lanka compared to China. And I think this should be a lesson to Sri Lanka in not taking in loans from countries that they cannot repay and following good economic policies that will help the country grow so that within the country there are investments flowing so it doesn't need to borrow money from outside the country and it doesn't rely on imports too much. And as far as India goes, it has improved its ties with India, especially this Vikramasinghe government compared to Rajapaksa. And I think nationalism would show that when you're making partners with countries, you would support countries that are closer to your national culture, your national identity. And India is very closest to Sri Lanka in terms of its religious identity, its culture, its traditions. And so Sri Lanka should be closer to India than it is to China. But this doesn't mean that it has to become hostile to China or stop doing business. It should continue to do business with China. China is a very wealthy country. It can uh, help Sri Lanka grow its economy, but it should not allow China to get a predatory role in its economy. It should not allow China to uh, take over infrastructure that it builds from loans that it gives to Sri Lanka. Sri Lanka should be careful about this. So that's what I think. I think that Sri Lanka should continue to partner with both India and China, but should be closer towards India. Please give your feedback for this video in the comment section. And if you want to see other videos about nationalism in South Asia, click here. If you want to see my previous video, click here. If you want to see the sources I used for this video, click the links in the description below. Thank you for watching. Vande Mataram.